Hello there, and welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We're here every week, meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues. We have another good show lined up today.
Well, we do, and we're somewhere new this week. We're in Tulsa. If you recognize the set being a little different, we're taping today from the city of Tulsa, and you can't come to the city of Tulsa without thinking about the University of Tulsa, and we were very fortunate to be able to get the new athletic director and vice president of athletics, Dr. Derrick Gragg, to join us.
It's all coming up today on The Verdict. Stay with us.
A doctorate in American Indian Studies and Comparative Cultural and Literary Studies. I focus on Native American arts and especially representations of American Indians. My name is Tracy Morris, and I am an educator, a scholar, and a business owner, and I am Chickasaw. I'm extremely interested in how Natives have been represented in the media and how we represent ourselves in the media. We have a unique opportunity right now with broadband and with new media. It's an open playing field. I do believe that it gives us a power to represent ourselves and a power to change our own destiny. Anybody with a cell phone, with a good phone, and an idea and a computer can go out and make a movie. For the first time, we can represent ourselves. We can tell our own stories, and to be seen for who we are now, not the victims of the past, I think is tremendously exciting. That's where my work lies.
And welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
As I indicated in the opening segment, we were very fortunate to have been able to invite and get Dr. Derrick Gragg, the Vice President and Director of Athletics at the University of Tulsa, to join us today to talk about what's going on with the Golden Hurricane. Dr. Gragg did his undergraduate work at Vanderbilt University, where he was an outstanding football player. He went on and did his master's work at Wayne State University and his PhD work at the University of Arkansas. He's been in the athletic department business, if you will, for 20 years or so, and he started out at Missouri with Joe Castiglione, then moved on to Michigan, then to Arkansas, and then for 7 years was athletic director at Eastern Michigan University. And then Tulsa captured him and brought him here to be athletic director for the Golden Hurricane. Dr. Gragg, we're sure pleased to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, now you are fairly new, getting your feet on the ground here in Tulsa. How have they been treating you so far?
Well, it's been great. This is my 4th day here, and I kind of hit the ground running. I landed here on Saturday night, put my stuff at the hotel, and went straight out to an event. So that's just the way it works in our business.
We try to be on top of things, Mick. Try to be timely with our shows.
A lot of success at the University of Tulsa. You come into a program that has a tradition of winning.
And that's very important. 49 championships in the last 8 years is just extraordinary. And we won 23 in 7 years at Eastern Michigan, which I think was the tops in the conference, but it's double that here. So that's very exciting for me and what the future holds for us.
Well, you know, they expect a lot of an athletic director. They expect the students to perform well in the classroom. They expect that no rules will be broken, and they expect, by the way, that you win as many games as possible. Those are sometimes seemingly conflicting, but most of the time it falls on the athletic director to try and keep everything moving in line. That's a big responsibility.
Well, it is, and people talk to me about that, and there are only 120 of these types of jobs in America, and I consider Tulsa to be in the top 50 for sure. So it brings a little bit more scrutiny, but integrity is what we believe in, and that's what I preach, as we say in the business, having a compliance background. I was compliance coordinator at 3 D1A institutions in Missouri, Michigan, and Arkansas. So I understand the importance of following the rules and doing things the right way. And then academically, obviously, that's what I've always stood for, and that's part of my background and my upbringing.
Well, now, University of Tulsa is, of course, a very fine academic institution, not a very large institution from the standpoint of enrollment, but well-funded and obviously has a great reputation. How do you find your coaches, or you probably haven't had a chance to even find your coaches yet, but how do your coaches recruit to a university like Tulsa? Can they do it primarily on academics?
Well, academics and then the athletic success too. Yeah. And I have been able to interface with the coaches. The first thing we did on Monday mornings, we had an 8:30 a.m. Senior staff and all coaches meeting. So I had a chance to meet all of them together. Several of them were on the interviewing staff when I came here and interviewed. And then after that, since then, I've been having one-on-one meetings with senior staff members and head coaches. I think I've probably had 10 or 11 of the head coaches come in so far. I have a couple more to do today. But I think there are a lot of things to recruit to at the University of Tulsa. Obviously, the academic reputation and prowess, and then again with the success, and the facilities are just fantastic. So I think we have a lot of things that we can push and promote as far as recruitment goes.
How many different sports do you have to say grace over here at the University of Tulsa?
There are 18 sports at Tulsa, about 400 student athletes, and so that's a big responsibility. Obviously, the head coaches and the assistant coaches are primarily responsible for them, but as an athletic director, you're basically held responsible for everything that occurs.
And not everyone is aware of the facilities that you have to work with, especially in many of your sports. Talk about some of the facilities, where you'd like to see capital improvements made, but where the success stories have been here in the recent past.
Well, in just the past couple of weeks, they put down new turf in the football stadium, which is state of the art. There's only one other institution in America, University of Maryland, which has it. And basically what it does is it brings the temperature down. A lot of people, if you haven't been on artificial turf, it's very hot. It's already going to be hot in the months that we play on it here. But apparently the temperature is going to be about 25 or 30 degrees less than it usually would be. And sometimes it can get up to 115, 120 degrees out there on the turf. So that's very exciting. The rental center is a fantastic facility. The scoreboard there, the Jumbotron, as people would call it.
Facility.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's state of the art, one of the only ones like it in America. That's very, very exciting. And just across the board, from what I've seen, it's just excellent. Now, going forward in the future, there's been a lot of talk already about an indoor practice facility, and that would be multi-sport. And I think that would probably be one of the major things that we look at going forward. And then maybe an academic center. The academic center right now has been refurbished, but moving forward into this new conference, I think maybe we need to take a look at that and do some strategic planning.
Talk to us a little bit about your playing days and your undergraduate days at Vanderbilt, and what lessons did you learn there that serve you well today?
Well, Vanderbilt and Tulsa are very similar. Small private institution playing in a big conference, and so really
Vanderbilt's in the SEC.
In the Southeastern Conference, yes. And so a lot of hard work in the classroom was the thing that we concentrated on primarily, obviously, but then you had to be able to compete with some of the schools that we went up against, the Floridas and the Alabamas and the Georgias. And so you learn discipline for the most part. I had a great experience at Vanderbilt, and had great tutelage there, met some great people who have been very instrumental in my life. Brad Bates, who's the athletic director at Boston College now, was our strength coach at Vanderbilt. And so that was the type of people that I interfaced with. Jerry DiNardo was the coach my senior year, who's an analyst now with Big Ten, the Big Ten Network, a great influence on me. And so Vanderbilt has played a large role in my educational foundation, obviously, which goes back to my mother being a long-time educator and really pushing education. So
in Huntsville?
Huntsville, Alabama.
Yeah, that's your home, I guess.
That's
you
right.
grew up there and went from there to Vanderbilt.
I did, and my mom always really stressed and pushed that education. My mom has 3 master's degrees herself, and just retired from the Huntsville City public school system down there.
I would imagine a lot of effort, if not research, goes into trying to figure out what young people are looking for. People with choices, people that can choose Tulsa against Vanderbilt or any other university. We understand facilities are important. We understand academics are important. It kind of looks as if the schools in the southern part of the United States are starting to attract many of the top athletes from the north. So you have climate, you have facilities, you have grades. Where does all that fit, and how do you, as an athletic director, try to create an environment here that's going to be attractive to these young people?
Well, all of that's very, very important, as you can imagine, and being in the market that we're in, and then the other competing institutions. You talk about Oklahoma State, and then you have Arkansas, which is right down the road as well. And when we were in Fayetteville, when I worked there, we spent a lot of time here in Tulsa, so I know about the proximity of it. So you have to try to out-recruit those schools and really push the things that you have. And again, and one of the big things and the key things for us going forward is us going into the new conference, formerly the Big East Conference, which is going to be the American Athletic Conference. We're very, very excited about that. Already I've been told by our coaches that the prospects and the recruits that we're looking at, they feel that that's a really big deal. That's very important for us, and I think that's going to help us with recruitment in the future as well.
To a certain extent, you're in the entertainment business. You're trying to attract people to come to games. And in today's environment, there's a lot of choices. You're competing against a lot of things: television, the internet, not much less, the ballet and everything else that goes on in a city like Tulsa. How do you intend to try and help build the attendance at football games?
Well, one of the things we're going to focus on a lot is marketing. And I had some conversations with the president and other people on the interview selection committee about that during the interview process, and looking at maybe the staffing in that area and doing things a little bit differently. A director of marketing position maybe going forward would be great. It's a person who can get out in the community and get me out in the community. Our coaches and our student athletes, obviously, we need to be very hands-on with people who surround us, because we do have a small alumni base. We have a small student number as well. So it's important that you really connect with the community, and as they say in the department already, become and maintain being Tulsa's team.
Let's get to a break. Dr. Derrick Gragg is the athletic director at the University of Tulsa. He'll be back with us for one more segment when we return.
Hear that? It's the sound of an industry, 83,000 strong, creating jobs for nearly 350,000. A $52 billion a year being pumped into our economy. It's the sound of Oklahoma's oil and natural gas industry, our heart for the state and our people. And it beats on and on and on.
When you have something important to communicate, it becomes clear that there's a lot of competition for your audience's attention. So how can your message stand out and actually resonate with your audience? Legal Graphics has the answers. The team at Legal Graphics will work with you to plan, design, and even test your presentation to ensure your message will be heard and remembered. Call Legal Graphics today to schedule an appointment. The readiness is all.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. We're visiting with Dr. Derrick Gragg. He's the athletic director at the University of Tulsa. There's been a lot of turnover amongst colleges and the prospective conferences, and Tulsa's part of that change. Tell us about the new conference affiliation.
Well, it's caused a lot of turmoil in our business, but for Tulsa individually, it's been a good thing and a positive thing. And so going into the American Athletic Conference, and it's not immediate, which is also a good thing because we have about a year to plan for this. So we're going to start some strategic planning and before we move in and start participating. And it'll be full conference membership for us. And so not just football only, you hear that term sometimes, but all of our teams will go in and we'll be full freight into this new conference. And the great thing about it is it's a new conference. The Big East, you have those athletic, the Catholic teams that are moving out in basketball are kind of taking the name. So we get a chance to go into something that's brand new, and so that's very exciting.
And give us an example of some of the schools that you'll be competing against in the conference.
Okay, well, so about 7 of the teams are going from Conference USA, so a lot of those we're accustomed to competing against, and that's Memphis. And then the rivalry with Houston will be reignited. SMU, Tulane, private schools that are very, very similar to ours, so that's good for us. And then the new ones, the big names that you hear are UConn, obviously, men's and women's basketball, probably the most successful combined basketball programs in America historically for a while now, so that's exciting. And then Cincinnati. And particularly in football, both Cincinnati and UConn have been to BCS bowl games in the last 4 or 5 years. So, and then we have Temple as well. So one of the things you have are new TV markets, and that's Tampa, Orlando, Philadelphia, which I think is the fourth largest TV market in America. So that's exciting too, because that will help us with exposure across the country.
Well, are you broken down into divisions by geography, or are there East divisions, West divisions, that sort of thing?
Right, there's a lot of talk about that right now, and I'll be going to, it's still the Big East right now, so I'll be going to the Big East meetings in a couple of weeks. So I'm pulling double duty right now. We're in Conference USA. I'm going to those meetings next week in Florida, and then the next week I'll go back to Florida, another part of Florida, and go to the Big East meetings. But you know, that's work, but that's the fun part of this business.
How many teams do you expect will ultimately end up in the American Athletic Conference?
Starting with 12, there will be 11 when we go into the conference, and then Navy is coming in the following year, and so that will even us up. And I don't know if Navy's a full freight program like ours is, but I know they'll be in for football, which will help with football scheduling and balancing the football schedule.
Let me talk to you about social media and how it's affected compliance issues. As a former compliance director at other universities, this new Goliath comes along, and all of a sudden kids are texting, and they're in all sorts of social media like Twitter and Facebook. And then you have the recruiting communications that's taking place, and all of this has had to been sorted out, and I guess it's still in flux a little bit. But give me your take on having to deal with these things that weren't around when you were playing at Vanderbilt.
That's right, and they weren't even around when I was a compliance coordinator, even as early as Arkansas, back in about 2005-06. Those types of social medias were just really starting to pop up, and when I played ball, and even when I started working at Vanderbilt in '93, there was no internet. And so things have changed drastically. And it's not so much about the social media, because I see it with my own children too. It's about the things that go on social media that are just wrong, and expose different people, different programs, and some very, very difficult things have come about because of that. So we try
chat rooms, for instance.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we try to educate student athletes on some of the do's and don'ts. Some programs you just can't have Twitter during the season, or you can't be on Facebook during the season. And I haven't been here long enough to know exactly what we do, but that is definitely an area of concern that we want to monitor.
Well, do your coaches interact with social media during the recruiting process?
Oh, obviously, and with texting and those types of things, but there are a lot of rules right now that exist because of that. Some of the prospects do prefer being contacted through tweeting and texting and those types of things. But there are also a lot of talk about the rules changes right now, and so we have to sort through a lot of those things going forward.
Do you see a difference in the student athlete today from the student athlete when you were a student athlete? And if so, are there positives, are there negatives, are they more difficult to deal with, or less?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think about the same as far as competitiveness and those types of things, but the world today is just so much different than it was even 25 years ago when I played, and just the things that some of these student athletes are dealing with coming in the door, from family background sometimes to maybe their educational preparation and coming in. And then again, getting back to the social media, the way that they communicate today is different from us. We talked on the telephone, so we were forced to be able to communicate with people. We talked to people face to face, and now they could be sitting across from one another and texting and not really interacting. So those are some of the things. We really have to deal with the communication and how student athletes communicate these days, and how we get our messages across to them.
I'm guessing you've been treated well here by the University of Tulsa and the support staff, and also the business community, which puts its arm around this university.
Oh, absolutely. It's been fantastic. The hospitality, and growing up in the South, I know this is kind of Midwestern South, it feels a lot like home, and people have gone out of their way and gone above and beyond for me already. I'll be excited when my family comes down in June as well. They've been down a couple of times too. And my wife Sonia and my children, we felt the same thing, and it just feels right. It feels like home, and it feels like family.
What do the fans want to know when they meet you for the first time?
Well, I'm a lifer in this business, and it is a business, but it's also, again, it's a family, it's a culture, and it's something that I've always done. I've never done anything else, 20 years, and so I've given my life to it. My family is totally dedicated to it and been very supportive of me as well. And what they can expect from me is that I'm going to work as hard as possible. And people ask you about legacy, and it's hard to look at that. I've only been on the job 4 days, but down the road, I would like my legacy to be that people thought very positively of me, regardless if I'm here 10 years, 20 years, 30 years and retire. I want to be known as the best athletic director that ever came in the door. So that's what I'm going to work hard on.
You talked about this being kind of your life's choice insofar as occupation is concerned. What have been some of the biggest rewards to you in engaging in this for 20 years? What have you gotten from it that gives you the greatest satisfaction?
Just the maturation of a lot of the student athletes that I've come in contact with. You can imagine, and we basically we manage and basically are in control of individuals who are 17 to 23 years old.
Kind of like herding cats.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so just watching them from the time that they come in the door to graduation, and just seeing the growth and the progress, and just being around them when they win championships and when they do well in the classroom is just something very, very exciting. And that's what really stimulates me. The coaches are obviously a big part of what we do. I always say in college athletics, it's basically built on the backs and the shoulders of the coaches. It's different in the pros, and we've talked about that. The LeBron Jameses and the Michael Jordans make the pros go, but it's the coaches that make our business go. And so being able to support them in their endeavors has been great too. Inevitably,
you're going to be recruiting coaches. What do you look for?
Well, experience. And
do you have a list in your pocket
no,
right
no,
now?
I left
like
it back
Joe
in the office.
Castiglione
Right. But you look for experience, and more than anything, you look for is fit. Do they fit your culture and your environment? Tulsa's a unique environment and culture. You have to understand the academics here. And we want people who really support that mission, support the mission of the president, who's great, Dr. Upham, who's been very supportive in bringing me here. I really thank him. And so that's what we look for when we talk about coaches.
Do you have any vacancies at the moment?
Not yet. And that's great. I don't have to deal with that. Yeah. And so coaches are doing a great job. I've had a good time meeting with them, and I'm looking forward to working with them.
We've got about a minute and a half left, and this is a statewide audience. What do you want the audience to know about yourself and the athletic department at Tulsa?
Well, we want everybody to come out and support us, and doing it the right way. Then again, mentioning the 49 championships, we really want to tell our story and want people to hear what we're all about at TU, because we're about excellence. We're about integrity and doing things the right way, and we're going to continue to win, but we're going to win the right way. And so I think that we're the type of department and athletic program and university that people would be excited about supporting. And so I hope that we get even more support. I thank the supporters and the boosters and the donors and the alumni that we have now, and we'll continue to look for more, and I'm looking forward to the future.
And your family will be arriving soon, I suppose?
In June. My family will be down in June, and we'll hit the ground running together.
And you mentioned your mother was highly educated herself. She must be pretty excited for you.
She is. She's very excited about this, and she was at the press conference. And my mom hasn't missed any of the moments in my life, big or small, and this is definitely a big one.
Moms are good about that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Well, Derrick, thank you for coming on The Verdict, and welcome to Oklahoma.
Time.
I really appreciate it.
We know how busy you are.
Oh, absolutely, and just thanks for having me on.
I can't imagine. Dr. Derrick Gragg is the new athletic director at the University of Tulsa, and you've got a lot on his plate. We look forward to watching your success in the next few years.
Yeah,
thanks
come
a lot.
back.
Oh, I will, for sure.
Okay.
All right. Kent and I'll be back with the final word when we return.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
I think for us, once we got started and we began to see the tremendous need just within our state, it really was just a calling for us. The blessings far outweigh any obstacles that we've faced.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information. And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online.
Mick Cornett and Kent Myers back on The Verdict. We're wrapping up a show of Dr. Derrick Gragg, the new athletic director at the University of Tulsa. I was quite impressed.
Oh yes, very nice fella. Obviously hitting the ground running and doing a good job. He got a lot to do. He's only been here 4 or 5 days, and he's given us a few hours of his time to do this show, and we appreciate it very much. He'll be walking into a situation where one problem that is not likely to be present, and that's academics. The University of Tulsa is a very fine academic institution, and I'm sure to the extent that's a factor in grading athletic programs, he's got a plus going in on that one.
And the standards don't get lower in college athletics, or especially at the University of Tulsa. And him being a compliance director at other places, I'm sure, was one of the factors that appealed to the administration that made this decision. Also, some great synergy between Vanderbilt, where he was an undergrad and played football, and the University of Tulsa, both big city schools, not necessarily large in student population, but very high priority on academics. But they don't want to lose on the athletic field either. I mean, so you're really asking a lot of your athletic director at a school like Vanderbilt or at Tulsa. We want our kids to be really, really well educated, but we also want them to win. And Tulsa's done that in the past, and it looks like this guy's on track to do it again. That's going to do it for this edition of The Verdict. We have a website. We'd love you to log on and tell us about a guest that you'd like to see on an upcoming edition. That website is theverdict.tv. For Kent Myers, I'm Mick Cornett. We'll see you next week.